So the lease is expiring soon on my Audi S3 from 2017. I've really enjoyed the car, but interested in trying something new. Looking for something similarly small, sporty, practical, can be used as a daily driver, but with updated technology over this car and something brand new with a new car warranty. Also be nice to have a manual transmission. Trying to think of what would be good options. Oh, a BMW M2 competition. Nice. Let's check it out. Next on Autopilot. So here we are in a 2020 BMW M2 competition. How did I choose this car? Gave it a lot of thought, a lot of consideration. I decided I wanted something still small and sporty like the Audi S3, but I no longer need 4 doors. I was okay with getting something that was a 2-door. I also figured that I no longer need all-wheel drive. I was okay with a well-balanced rear-wheel drive car. Here on Long Island in the metro New York area, we do get snow in the wintertime, but it's certainly manageable with a good set of winter tires and with a well-balanced rear-wheel drive car. I had an E90 M3 back in 2011 that I liked a lot, that was a daily driver, like this car will be, did just fine in the winter with good winter tires. So I knew historically that that would work for me. I was curious about trying BMW again, and this car has been getting great reviews, especially the new M2 competition with the S55 engine from the M3 and the M4. So let's fire it up and take it for a drive. So let's talk about this engine. The S55 is one of the main differences between the M2 competition and the original M2 from the last couple of years. The engine's fantastic. It's the one, obviously, from the M3 and the M4. It's very, very revvy for a turbo engine, which is nice. Certainly not as revvy as the V8 from the E90, E92 M3 that I'd had previously. And certainly doesn't sound like that at all, but the advantage being that despite it being revvy for a turbo engine, it still has a good amount of low-down turbo torque that is very helpful in traffic, very helpful in getting the car going from a stop, and you really don't have to rev it hard to get the car going. That being said, one of the criticisms of this car, and something I agree with, is that the turbos really do muffle the sound of the inline 6-cylinder. BMWs obviously historically have been known for the sound of their inline 6, the howl of it, great sound. You don't hear it as much in this car because of the turbos muffling that, and specifically with this engine compared to the N55 from the original M2, the way the turbos are set up with one per bank of 3 cylinders creates a little bit of an odd sound. Something that hopefully can be taken care of with an upgraded mid-pipe and exhaust. That's something we'll talk about later. Nice 911 Turbo S up there. As for the suspension is not adjustable like some cars are. There's no button that transitions between comfort and sport. This has one setting, which I'm fine with as long as it strikes a reasonable balance between handling and ride, I'm okay with that. And I think BMW's done a pretty good job with that. The car certainly is much more compliant over bumps than the S3 was, and the Audi S3 was. It's less choppy, less crashy, and harsh over bumps, while still maintaining nice flat handling. And certainly the steering in the front end is fantastic. It steers, turns in very well. That's a huge improvement over the S3, which very much felt like a front-wheel drive biased car in that regard. That being said, I was on the Taconic Parkway over the weekend coming back from the Lime Rock historic races, and the car was a little bit unsettled on that particular stretch of road. I'm not entirely sure why, but it tends to be a curvy road that's actually pretty bumpy as well, and the car felt, like I said, felt a little unsettled, felt a little unsure of itself, which is a little bit strange. So that'll remain to be seen if that's something that is a real issue or just particular to that stretch of road. As I'm sure you've heard, the brakes on the competition are a significant upgrade over those on the older M2. Large 6-piston calipers up front and 4 calipers in the rear. There's certainly a huge improvement over the brakes that were on my older E90 M3, which were frankly terrible, especially for track use. Just totally inadequate for track use. As a matter of fact, I ended up immediately putting on Stop Tech big brake kit all around on that car prior to taking it to the track, and then that car ended up seeing about 35 track days. But I would imagine that these brakes are more than adequate for track use with just simply upgraded higher temperature brake fluid and more appropriate track pads. My only criticism of the brakes is they do tend to be a little bit grabby, especially at low speeds, which is something that takes some getting used to. You tend to put yourself and your passengers through the windshield when you're just trying to slow down gently for a stop in town. Another consideration is that the brakes are so large with very little clearance, even with the stock 19-inch wheels, that someone who would be interested in downsizing to 18-inch wheels for track use for wider selection of track tires will not be able to fit 18-inch wheels to these brakes. So I've seen on the forums that those people that are interested in doing that actually end up changing the brakes to AP or performance friction setups that are a little bit smaller in terms of the caliper and rotor size to be able to fit 18-inch wheels. And now for the bad news. I spec this car with a manual transmission because I was very excited to have a manual as a daily driver again. Kind of difficult to do in 2019 to find a car with a manual transmission these days, and excited to have both of my cars having manual transmissions. That being said, the manual in this car is not great. I haven't had a manual BMW for over 10 years, and I can't remember exactly how this compares to prior BMW manuals, but this really doesn't feel great. The throws are very long with the shifter. They feel a little bit rubbery and vague, and it's just not a very pleasing feel. It kind of feels a little bit toy-like, almost like a Fisher-Price kids shifter, which is not exactly what you want in your M car. Also, the clutch pedal is very odd. It's a very long throw, long travel, which was very embarrassing leaving the dealership parking lot when I first took delivery of the car, being used to the GT4, which has a very progressive, quick biting clutch pedal close to the floor. With this, you let the clutch pedal out and there's nothing. You keep on letting out, nothing, and then finally it catches up near the top of the travel. Meanwhile, you're trying to add a little bit of gas to get going. It's just very awkward. It's something that I've gotten used to over time, but as we'll mention later, it's something that I'm going to take care of. Let's take a closer look at the outside and inside of the car. The exterior color is Hockenheim Silver, which is the same color that's been on all the press cars for review. I chose it both because it's unique to the M2 competition and also because it's interesting in how it changes depending on ambient light, from silver to white to almost a Porsche 911 chalk type color. The exterior surfaces of this car are really amazing, from the deep creases and folds that run alongside the doors to the exaggerated wheel arches. These are features that you don't really pick up from photos or from watching a video such as this one, but ones that you need to see in person and that you really truly appreciate if you're washing the car yourself by hand, where you really get a true sense of them. And the infamous loaded diaper rear muffler that everyone's been talking about. Either need to paint this thing black or replace it with a better aftermarket unit. I don't love the 788M wheels that come standard with the car. They look a little bit too fussy to me and they're difficult to keep clean. I will keep them though for a winter setup with a nice set of winter tires. And for the rest of the year, I have on order 19-inch Apex EC7 wheels, which will allow me to run wider tires up front and in the back. The interior is standard BMW, but with some nice sporty updates. The Alcantara on the inside door panels is nice. I chose the kind of pseudo carbon fiber finish instead of the piano black because I was very concerned the piano black would show fingerprints, and sure enough, the little bit of standard piano black that's around the AC controls and the radio controls does show fingerprints, so I'm glad I went with that carbon fiber. The instrument cluster is a nice hybrid of old school BMW with your standard round tach and speedometer, clear and straight in front of you, but with nice digital features to show navigation directions. And thankfully this car actually has an oil temperature gauge, which is something that the Audi S3 was lacking. Despite only being a two-door, the car does have a decent amount of interior space. Behind the front seats in the back, kids or small adults can fit quite easily. You can get a lot of groceries in here and in the trunk, and the car easily passes my paper towel test, which is fitting 2 mega packs of Bounty paper towels in the back seat without a problem. For these first couple of months, the M2 competition has proved to be a great replacement for the Audi S3. It ticks all the boxes. It's fast, fun, compact, rear-wheel drive, has a manual transmission, and is relatively affordable. Aside from the shifter and clutch feel and the inconveniently small fuel tank, combined with my average 16 miles to the gallon, I'm really loving it. I've just now hit 1,200 miles, and so now I can really start to open it up. Stay tuned for updates on the upgraded shifter and clutch pedal, the Apex wheels, and likely exhaust changes. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on Autopilot.